Hi everyone, this is Debbie Keil-Leavitt introducing my 2013-2014 classes, Astrology, Our Eternal Stories in the Sky, Navigating the Zodiac and Beyond. On our journey through the zodiac signs, we will meet our ancient selves in mythic stories and plot our course for the future. The premise of the classes is that astrology as a living system works. We will study the ancient practice of interacting with and recognizing our lives reflected in the sky. This astrologer priest view from our interconnections with Earth, sky, and each other is considered a fundamental of today's systems theory of quantum physics. So the ancient stargazers apparently were quite wise, those from Egypt and Mesopotamia that were the foundation of our astrology, and that they saw those connections at that time and actually described them, as we'll see later in this presentation. Our approach to astrology is really what is needed and wanted today for astrologers, non-astrologers, people who want a better view of how to approach their lives, what they're looking at, and how to manage it. Many agree that recognizing ourselves as related to the earth and sky is essential to our survival. So we use the metaphor of flying an airplane. We navigate our lives as a pilot commanding a ship or aircraft. This picture serves as a metaphor for navigating the entire zodiac until we reach Pisces waters for a landing. I wasn't flying this particular aircraft, but I was in the right seat photographing as we landed on the final approach at Kalapapa, Molokai, from those magnificent thousands of feet high cliffs down to the ocean here, and it was very dramatic, like our trip around the zodiac. The 2013 classes tools, charts, and maps. We use the tool of the zodiac as the stars indicate our location on the journey, and the planets show us the actions of the characters and the various forces in our lives. This is the pilot's mandala, so to speak. This is the instrument panel of the Cessna 172. You can see the horizon, the ground. You can see what's directly overhead and beneath. And that's what an astrology chart is. You'll see this ancient instrument panel, as I called it, for ancient Greco-Egyptian astrologers, where you can see the four angles representing the horizon, those four two-figured creatures holding up the zodiac, the gods, so to speak, directly on the horizontal part of it and on the vertical part of it. And that very much resembles that center piece you see that a pilot uses. And it's not only the four directions in our horizon and what's overhead and below in an astrology chart, but it's also the four elements that we use, that you hear of so much: earth, air, water, and fire. And this is very much tied to the actual elements that you use to maintain flight. You have to constantly balance thrust with drag for a forward motion, and you have to constantly balance gravity with lift, which is our up and down motion. And so a pilot is working with four elements at any given time to maintain his aircraft. So your situation on your heroic journey is at any given time both eternal and soulful, yet immediately demanding its life fired at you point blank. So integrating these simultaneous realities is one of the greatest gifts of astrological study. And recognizing your life in the sky allows you to see your connections in the cycles of life in a living, breathing metaphor. That's what we live. And so now, why does it work as far as astrology connecting the physical and the metaphor of our story? Great thinkers of the 20th century like Joseph Campbell and Buckminster Fuller were keenly aware of the power of metaphor, as well as the fundamental physics of life. This is a picture of Odysseus resisting the sirens, an ancient journey that's been repeated throughout time. And you can see how metaphor has worked through our stories, film, poetry, And our great poets and songwriters, masters of metaphor, speak directly and powerfully to our all-knowing connection with life, our souls, to use a more common term. And here I'm just showing how it's repeated in our lives and in film, all the things that we love. The characters of mythology are reborn constantly and somehow fascinate us with each new telling, especially since we live these stories ourselves. You can see the Odyssey, 2001 Space Odyssey, and I love this picture of Abby Sunderland, a teen who, like her brother who managed to circumnavigate the globe, he was the youngest man to circumnavigate the globe solo in today's world. She made the attempt, ran into a storm that masted her boat in the Indian Ocean, and did not make it all the way around the world, yet it was obviously clearly a very heroic journey, and she was actually spotted by Qantas pilots flying over the Indian Ocean. So she survived well and is another hero, just as every action we take in life is heroic. Loving other people is certainly heroic and takes courage. Now we're back to the physics of this, and quantum physics and astrophysics discoveries are making it clear that the entire universe, inner and outer, is made up of repetitive cycles and shapes that are each just slightly different, or possibly better described as transcendent to the previous creation. This is what astrology and mythology is all about. I'll go into this further with help from Dr. Capra, more than a little help. In his film Mind Walk, which was based on his book The Turning Point, it's a beautiful film of a discussion between an actual quantum physicist, a poet, and a U.S. Failed presidential candidate in this particular case. And she describes what systems theory is to these gentlemen, and as being based on the interrelationship of all living things. She states that the fundamental principle is that life is self-organizing. Sonia then breaks this down to understandable terms for her companions. It's rather like the self-organization of a chart. We'll see from going through this. Modern systems theory and astrology begins where she describes it as life is self-maintaining. A living system, although dependent on its environment, is not determined by it. Ancient astrologers would describe this part of the process or journey of life as moving from cardinal or action-initiating signs to fixed signs, the signs of sustaining life. This is a photo of a day-old foal in Ireland. I saw the mother pregnant one day, and the next day there she was with her baby, and I thought it was quite beautiful. So wanted to share that, but that's life recreating itself. Then secondly, she describes life as self-renewing. Though most of our cells are being replaced, we do recognize each other because we see the pattern of our organization is still the same. That's one of the important characteristics of life, continual structural change, yet stability in the pattern of the system's organization. Rather like looking at a chart. Once again, this would be transitioning from a fixed sign to a mutable sign. When we integrate our experience of doing and having in life into the ultimate experience of communicating, relating, and sharing what we know, this brings a coming to life across the field of life of what we've gathered. It's true creation. It's ultimately creating being. We do this through love, and we do this through birth of children, and we do this through our artistic creations and so forth. Finally, she says life is self-transcending. You see, self-organization is not only the living systems maintaining themselves, it also means that they have an inherent tendency to transcend themselves, to reach out and create new forms. That's the most exciting part to me, that the basic dynamics of evolution is not adaptation, but creativity. Sonia the physicist and Prithia Kapoor's Mind Walk is, of course, stated this, and I certainly am equally excited about that. In astrological terms, this is completing a zodiac cycle to begin anew, what we plan to do over the next year. Finally, we'll get to the metaphor here, beautifully stated by my favorite poet, Pablo Neruda. One returns to the self as if to an old house with nails and slots, so that a person tired of himself as of a suit full of holes tries to walk naked in the rain, wants to drench himself in pure water, in elemental wind, and he cannot but return to the well of himself. And that's what we essentially do time and again. This is described again in possibly my favorite song of the 20th century of any time, actually, by Brian Wilson and Van Dyke Parks. Van Dyke wrote these lyrics: surfs up aboard a tidal wave, come about hard enjoying the young and often spring you gave. I heard the word, wonderful thing, a children's song. This is a beautiful description of the end of the heroic journey. We're at Pisces, initiating into another cycle of Aries, beginning with Aries, and with this ancient mariner's term of coming about hard, which is essentially turning your boat with the tiller or wheel as you reset the sails, move them to the other side of the boat, in essence, the mainsail, and head back. Actually, you can go back home if you do that, or adjust that to maneuver the wind and go on your course. It's adjusting your course, in other words. So I finished that with a very modern mariner of sorts. This would be one of our modern astronauts, Dr. Douglas Wheelock. He was tweeting these stunning photos from space, and one of them was of the horizon with the aurora borealis, and he described it this way: the city's awakening to a new day collide to make this masterpiece, and while with silent lifting mind I've trod the high untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touched the face of God. Beautiful description by Dr. Wheelock of what he was experiencing from space, looking back at our gorgeous planet. And so now on to the details. Each monthly class will deal with a specific zodiac sign and constellation with its pertinent mythologies over centuries of astrology, related star lore, and a related planet having its leading role in that particular zodiac sign. The nature of the planet itself, as well as its ancient stories, will be discussed as well. The schedule will start with a wonderful introductory class I'm excited about. I'm doing with Juan Tracy Cherry and Linda DeFeo on the sun and the moon to give us a night and day, to give us the basics. That's on March 23rd, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's a Saturday. And then my classes will continue online every month. This will be an online class as well, the introductory class. The online class will take place the first Wednesday of the month, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. That'll run from April 1st through February 5th of 2014. So to plan your dates, to let you know, because I know of everyone's busy schedule, these will all be recorded. You can drop in and drop out of the meeting if you can't make the entire time period, or just receive the recording afterwards if the whole evening isn't timely for you. Especially some of you who are in Australia spoke about studying this, and obviously this might not be a very pertinent time for you. It might be the middle of the night. In fact, it is. So in any case, then we finish these. These will be done along with the monthly classes. We will also have special planet and stargazing parties when there are important events in the sky, basically, when we have certain alignments. If the weather doesn't cooperate, we will simulate the view on our computers. And this will help you gain a sense of interacting with the environment in a universal way, engaging the planets, if you will. It gives you a personal sense of the constellation and its glory and why people have worshipped them over the years. It's a pretty stunning experience, and this will be a part of our tour of the Zodiac. You'll also receive recordings of my other lectures and appearances throughout the year that will be pertinent to our studies as another bonus. And with all of this, you'll be able to integrate the ancient stories that our ancestor stargazer priests of Egypt and Mesopotamia found in the skies, the foundations of our Western astrology, and you'll integrate those with our modern tools and into your own life. As we'll also be including today's myths of our newly discovered solar system family as it expands, bringing us in touch with the demands of today's world and its primary paradigm, or its metaphor. today's metaphor. And that's interesting that the new planets are bringing in multicultural points of view, as well as a real sense of how sustaining life and sustaining our living planet is one of our, it is the primary focus that we need to address today. So if you'd like to know more, you can visit my website. We'll have a lot more details there, www.debbiekeilastrologer, DebbieKeilastrologer.com. And I hope to have you join me. I think it'll be a really fun journey, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know your personal stories. Thanks so much.